Oh my God, I got my phone on.
Welcome everybody to the
never
Lynn
did
Serrano
that.
show. I just had to wait.
Oh
And just
my goodness. I can't believe I did that.
oh, that's hilarious.
I got caught. All right.
That's okay, everybody. Everybody behind stage should be sharing it with their on their page as well. Hey Scott, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. You know, I was just thinking today, Lynn, I can't even remember how long we've been doing this together now. How many months we've been doing this? Maybe
I think
6 months?
more than that. I think it's
More than
almost
that.
been a year.
We're coming. Yeah, we'll have to look at that because we'll have
Yeah.
to do an anniversary show. But when we started, it was just Lynn and Scott as we see it. You and I were just going to kind of banter back and forth. I want to tell people this, how important this is. And then we invited somebody on one time and we said, that's kind of cool. And then we invited 2 people, then 3 people came on. Next thing you know, we changed the title of the show to As We All See It. Then we changed Lynn and Scott to the Lynn and Scott and Friends show.
Yeah.
So this has been like naturally growing. I have no idea where we're going to go next. But I just got to say, I love the direction. I love the people that we've met, the people that participate every week, and the listeners and the people who tune in and comment. I love all you guys. This is something fantastic that Lynn and I had no idea it was going to do this, and it's awesome.
Yeah, I can't agree more. And there's one friend that started out with us.
That's right. She was one of the originals.
Yeah.
Teodora.
And then there's this guy that I love so much.
Mr. Rex Sikes. Live and in person.
And then Mr. Barry.
Barry, and all the times I picked on Barry, he keeps coming back, and I love the guy. He's fantastic.
And then we got Mr. Rizzo.
Steve Rizzo, our funny guy.
Why am I last?
You're not last.
You're not.
Actually. You're not last.
We got Kristy.
Last.
Well,
but now you just made her feel bad. Good job,
Steve.
Steve.
Feel better now.
And you know what? I don't have that beautiful. I have that beautiful book in Kindle. I have to go get the hard copy of that.
That's a great cover.
I'm going to send you one, Lynn. I'm going to send you one.
Oh, then I got Bob's. I've got Barry's, and I got the one and only Mr.
Thank you kindly. Hey, by the way, has it occurred to you that you've added one word every 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 months, so that you're now, As We All See It, which is 5 words, and then the Scott and Lynn and Friends show is 5 words. So in 3 or 4 months, you're going to add another word or 2, and you'll just
I don't know.
Yeah. By the time it gets done, by the time we're done, it'll take an hour to introduce the show, and we won't have time for any guests. That's where we're heading.
Well,
that's where we're heading.
I want to play this because this leads into our thank you guys all for being here.
Wait, what are you going to play? You're not going to play my clip, right?
I was going to play your clip.
Oh, okay. All right. Go for it.
Here you go.
I thought you were going
to. You say you made a resolution. Well, you know, it ain't never going to last. You say you want a real solution. Well, you know, you gotta get up off your ass, yeah. But if you're looking for a better way, don't you know you gotta start today? You really gotta move your ass. Your ass. You know you gotta move your ass.
It was overmodulated, but the message of the song was supposed to talk about what we want to talk about tonight, which is we're coming towards that time when people start making their New Year's resolutions, and it's like, this is going to be the year I'm going to change. And what the song was saying is, you say you made a resolution, you know it's not going to last. If you want a real solution, you got to get up off your ass. And that's basically what the song, what I was trying to say. My apologies to Paul McCartney, John Lennon, Ringo Starr, and George Harrison. Not so much to Ringo. I know he didn't write shit. So anyway, 5 worst words ever spoken in rock and roll. Let Ringo sing this one. Anyway, I love Ringo. He's a great guy, advocate for recovery. But so the whole point was, every year people go out and they make these resolutions, and I'm guilty of it too. And I say, this is the year I'm going to go to the gym. In fact, the top 10: exercise more, lose weight, get organized, learn a hobby or a new skill, live life to its fullest, save money, quit smoking, spend more time with family and friends, travel more, and read more. Those are the top 10 resolutions that people make. In any one of those, if you're setting a date and saying it's all going to start next year, you're dooming yourself to fail right away. Because if it's not something you can actively do today, it's not something you're going to do tomorrow. I truly believe that if you want to make changes, don't make resolutions, get off your ass and do something different. I think the resolution is just kind of a feel good thing. And that's why all the gyms across America can't wait until the first week in January, because they end up, you got a gym that can fit 60 people and they have 7,000 members sign up. And they know we're good as gold because we're never going to have more than 60 people in this room. Because that's what resolutions are. It's got to, I just want people, if you want to lose weight, put down the burger today. Don't put it down next week. If you want to do something different, if you want to get organized, get up and clean up your shit. If you want to read more, it's called a book, people. Grab one. Look at it. You guys got a few to offer right here.
Indeed.
Stop waiting. Stop waiting. I think we think there's something magic that's going to happen to us on New Year's Eve. And we're going to wake up New Year's Day as a new person. And that's never going to happen. Start making changes. Do it today. And get up off your ass. So that's where I wanted to go with this today. And I know it's probably, I don't know. I think we could have some fun with this. But definitely, I think we've all been caught in that resolution kind of thinking. I'll start later. I'll start on this date instead of just making actions happen today. So that's where I want to go with the show today. Let me know. And if there's something else you guys want to talk about that's more important, like how good I sing, then go ahead.
So Scott, let's start with the center square there, Mr. Rex Sikes.
Absolutely.
Because I know he's going to get us into a really good topic or discussion on this.
This is one of those topics we could talk about forever. One is when people say they want to do something more than what, it's like, I want to save money. Well, how much more money do you want to save? How much more fun do you want to have? How much more travel do you want to do? They don't actually pick a target that they can work at. They just have this kind of nebulous, I want more, or I want less. Like, I want to lose weight. Well, most people don't like losing things, so just the way you start talking to yourself, matters. You say, and I agree with you that you should start today if you can, but sometimes you need to plan. Like, if you're going to go on vacation, you set a date and you get ready and you pack and you make all the arrangements before you go. There's nothing wrong with that if you actually carry it out, because say you paid money to go on the trip, you're going to go, barring an emergency. But what happens is people think that Monday is the start of the week because we're conditioned for work weeks. They think the 1st of January is the beginning of the new year. Well, every day is the beginning of a new year if you think about it. Tomorrow is the beginning of a calendar year, not a calendar year, but a year from whatever tomorrow is, the 15th, 14th, whatever.
14th, yeah.
14th. So, you just have to say, I'm going to start on such and such a date, or I'm going to start at such and such a time. Today, I'm going to do this, or tomorrow I'm going to do that. But you set the intention and you make it so that you can follow through on it. To just say more means nothing. If you say, I'm going to clean, my desk, and then I'm going to clean the closet, and then I'm going to clean, this drawer, then I'm going to vacuum you at least know what you want to do and whether or not you can accomplish it. And if you bite off too big a chunk, you probably aren't going to do it because you're not going to leave your comfort zone to do it. But if you make it manageable and you make it something that's relatively important to you, and you set a time and a date for starting and either accomplishing or seeing it through, you're more likely to do it than to just say, I want to feel better. Yeah, of course, we all like to feel better. But what are you specifically going to do? Well, I'm going to eat right. I'm going to sleep right. I'm going to exercise the right amount. I've got these things that I can do in tiny little increments that are going to contribute to my overall well-being. Far, far easier to do that than to just have this kind of, I don't know, I just want to feel better.
I like that. I like that a lot. And I like what you said about, you might not be able to do it today, but you could start the planning. You could start processing things. You could start making an idea about what you're going to do. If you're going to go on a diet, start researching which diets it's going to be, what you're going to do.
Well, so, like what I would typically do is I say, I got all this junk food in my house and I want to start my diet on January 1st. So I better eat it all before the 1st of January.
You started something, but it wasn't what you wanted to start.
That's how some people operate. You know what I mean?
Monday never comes.
I spent money on it. I don't want to give it away. I don't want to throw it away. So I better consume it. And
well,
now,
that's just being responsible. That's
Right.
just being responsible.
So meanwhile, it takes 12 months to eat all your damn food. You got to wait till January.
Till I'm done. That's why stocking the pantry is always a great idea if you don't want to lose weight.
Well, that's I had the same thinking. If I didn't drink all the alcohol in New Jersey before I quit drinking, it would have been wrong. I had to do that first. So, and I came close. Who's next?
I'd like to jump in if I can, because Rex, you said a word that was something that, was really front and center for me when I was thinking about this topic, which is the word intention. And, for me, right, I think about even, for myself in my personal life, right? Scotty, you read that list of like the most common resolutions. And I think we all fall into that trap of like, these are the things I should be doing. Right? This is what the rest of the world is giving up. Junk food and this and that, right? Everybody's reading. I should read. Everybody's losing weight. I should lose weight. Everybody's hanging out with their kids more. I should do that. And we fall in this pattern. And that, means that the motivation for wanting to make change in the first place isn't necessarily coming from the purest, most genuine and authentic place within us. So, one of the things that I've had to do for myself and that I've also, helped clients with is before you think about doing anything, making changes, making resolutions, is really sitting with yourself and, really kind of taking inventory, looking at your life, going inward and, just getting clear about where you're at now. And one of the pieces to that is really, and this has been, I'm going to say this has been really hard for me personally, which is I truly know that we can't make any positive change in our life if it's motivated from fear, motivated by lack, motivated by insecurity, right? So if my intention is, okay, I'm going to lose weight this year because, I hate the way I look in this outfit and I'm so afraid that no one's going to like me or whatever, the chatter in the mind is, well, I know that's going to fail because the energy that's driving that, right, is not coming from that place of truth and that place of authenticity. So in terms of intention, I feel like, it has to start with getting clear on where we're at now and learning to say, okay, I examine all these parts of myself and I accept where I am right now. I'm beautiful just as I am, right? I'm perfect, for lack of a better word, just where I am right now. And then saying, okay, I can be here. And then I say, okay, you know what would really enhance this, enhance my life is if I were more well-read, let's say, right? So I'm going to work towards that. But the intention is coming from a place of I accept where I am, I love where I am, and I'm trying to enrich my life. I'm not doing it from a place of insecurity, lack, or fear, or because the rest of the world is doing the 75 hard challenge and reading 10 pages of a book a day, So I think that for me is that first place to start, is that intention.
Scott, you know what I was going to say when she first said, first thing you need to do with intention is seek or talk to your doctor before you change your
Can I make a quick response?
Yes, of course. Yes.
It occurred to me while you're talking, one thing is the statement that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. People have to understand the difference between intending to do something and intending and carrying through on it. I had a friend who lost a significant amount of weight. I mean, like 100 pounds. And I said, how did you do it? He said, I took one spoonful less of food every meal. In other words, I would have taken my regular portion, but I took just a slightly smaller portion every meal. And then somebody else would say, well, I tried that. The difference was he stuck with it.
Right.
And made it a practice, and he dropped the weight because he wasn't consuming as much as he had been. Whereas some other people will try that for a little while and then just quit on it. Or they'll go, oh, well, I'll have an extra helping of, pie and, but a less helping of protein or something. And they're not, it's not equal.
So I'd say consistency of intention. It needs to be consistent.
Absolutely. Kristy, excellent points. That's fantastic. I mean, if it's not coming from you, why are you doing it? And again, that's the whole gym thing. Everybody thinks they're supposed to go to the gym and get fit. Then you go there and you're like, it's not my kind of place. And then what you realize is it's going to take you 6 months to get out of that contract you signed, and they're going to get all your money anyway. So you lose in 100 different ways just because you're not doing it for you. You're not doing it for you. You're not doing it you're doing it for the things around you. And that's really important. Very important. Who wants to jump in next?
I love what you, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, she's going in. There we go.
I love what you said, Dr. Kristy, because it's so true, and it doesn't come with intentions, especially when we talk about money. You know, when I sit down with clients and we go over their financial situation and we are talking about making changes, most of the people in general are looking at where can I cut? Where can I save? Where can I? And then they don't stay with it because they figure out if I'm going to be broke for the rest of my life, I might as well be caffeinated or drunk or just go out to eat and enjoy life, right? So when we talk about changes, and you know, me working in finances and work with financial responsibilities, that's the hardest point where people just don't stick with it because it doesn't come with intention. They just cannot stay with it. And that's the hardest thing to do, is change habits. When we have to make changes, we have to change habits. And I wish Bob Donnell was here, because he speaks, you know, the best on the subject to change habits and make changes and go from something that we want to achieve to where we want to be by habits and taking actions and making changes. But if we were to talk about finances, man, so many people don't stick to it because it's not easy. And they figured we're just gonna enjoy life if we're gonna be broke and miserable.
I don't know. I've seen a lot more people in financial struggles who make more money than people who make lower amounts of money because they don't overspend. You know, it's a habit I've seen. Teodora, is that something that you've seen where the more people have, the more they overspend? Sometimes
depends how they got it. If they got it with hard work, and if they got it, you know, with and are being cautious about it and know the amount of work that they put into to obtain that money, they would be more disciplined with money, and they have clear intentions and they know where they're going and they're responsible. People that just get, you know, maybe get a lot of money coming from a rich aunt or a rich uncle, and it just comes to them, or they won the lottery. We all know the lottery stories, right? Or so it depends the amount of effort that they put into obtaining that kind of money to do something with it or not.
Oh, okay. All right. Awesome. Who wants to kick in next?
I guess Barry. I'm on the spot. Boy, some great stuff's been laid down. I want to add a couple of things. The thing about intentions for me is intentions are great energetically because they put you in a place where you're leaning into something. Most people have resolutions as like this thing I've got to do. It's like it's very fixated, very force-based. And resolutions, from my experience, of what people take on as a personal challenge, as I said earlier. But for me, the way I work with intentions is it's a spirit-involved process because you're being inspired by something. And ideally, if you're being inspired, you're heading towards something, not away from something. So the losing weight, for example, isn't moving towards something, it's moving away from something. So if you want to lose weight, focus on where you want to be when you've lost the weight. When you make that image, that vision, that experience to your focus point, it gets easier to move your energy towards that. The caveat of this, I talked about this before, I think, on the show, is that we're wired up where our physical, mental, and emotional components are all put together, which means if you decide you're going to lose 20, 30, 40 pounds of weight or more, you're going to have your mental and emotional baggage tied to that weight that you have to work on for that weight to stay away. They've done research on this. People, like 90% of people who lose significant weight over a period of time will put it back on within 5 years. And the thing is that's why now I think Weight Watchers and other people like that have coaches, because when people lose the weight, all their stuff, so to speak, emotionally comes up. The reason they put the weight on in the first place. So if you're going to work on big goals like that, it's good to work with somebody hint, hint. But secondly, is also get clear about what you're going to have to deal with when it shows up, because it's going to say, it sounds so easy, I'm going to lose 30 pounds. Well, yeah, that may or may not happen if you don't at least work on what the goal is, the real goal inside. You want to look good in your clothes. Good. Focus on that. Because you may not lose the amount of pounds. You may lose the inches. And that's a different thing. The other piece I want to add quickly to this is most people with resolutions, especially when they miss a step, like they get day 4 and they don't go to the gym, they give up. Because there's some rule in their heads that resolutions have to be an unbroken sequence. You can't take a day off, or you can't make a mistake. You've got to keep it straight and narrow. I said my best trainer I've got is my Apple Watch, because that thing keeps nudging me and it works. But if I miss a day, it doesn't curse at me, it doesn't beat me up. It just says, okay, get back on, do it the next day. And because when I was down with COVID back in last month, I couldn't go exercise for about 5 days because I wasn't physically capable to it. And so for me, the gift of that reminder is when I get back on again, the health app just gets back in sync. So having somebody or something that helps you on the road to where you want to go makes it much easier. And when you make mistakes, because we do as humans, don't kick yourself in the butt. Lift yourself up. Start over again.
Barry, as part of that, I like the idea of looking at the goals and stuff, and that kind of leans you into it. But isn't it also your perspective along the way about what you're doing, as opposed to saying, I'm dieting to lose weight? It wouldn't the perspective of, I'm trying to adopt a more healthy eating lifestyle? I mean, are those things important to keep those kind of perspectives so that it's not just all about, I have to be thinner. It's about, I've got to eat healthier and I want to feel better, those kind of things.
Well, like Kristy was offering a suggestion was about, that you don't fit in the outfit anymore. You don't look good in the mirror. It's like, well, those are the things that are going to keep you with the weight on, because that's the wiring we have. Again, what we tell ourselves, what we end up looking like. So you start telling yourself that you're beautiful or handsome, whatever it is, or you're physically fit. And then you add the component of eating healthier and doing physical exercise. The goal gets easier to achieve. So yes, keeping the languaging in an affirmative place. And yes, one thing that Kristy said, which I think is great, and I would underscore this, is before you're starting to attempt these goals, sit down and write down or imagine how you'd feel, how you'd look when you get to that goal. If it's the new house or the new living accommodation or the new physique, new relationship. I talk about this to my clients. What is the vision you hold? What does it feel like to be in that relationship you don't have yet? Like, put yourself there. Well, I think Rex got something on this.
Right. Well, yeah, good, Rex. No, this is wonderful, Barry, because you're talking about maintenance, and how to maintain the new habit. And a lot of people, it's like people who plan to go on a vacation. A lot of times they think, I'm going to go here and we're stay at this hotel, and then they plot it out, and then they say we're going to go to these restaurants and see these sites and do these things. But a lot of people, when they lose weight, they don't imagine how their life will be the day after, a week after, a month after, 5 years after. They get to their target, and then they have no plan. And so if they have no plan, they don't continue, or it's easy to get distracted. The other thing I would add to is that habits are not hard to change. They seem hard to change because people don't have the right attitude or the right thoughts about them. And if your thinking is wrong, you're not going to do much in terms of changing or sticking with it or maintaining anything. When your attitude and your thinking is right, you have a better chance at doing it. And the problem with a lot of people is they try behaviorally to make changes and their thinking sucks. And so it doesn't last because the thinking doesn't support what they try to do. If you do try and do something behaviorally to change, for example, if I want to start juggling, if I juggle and I do little bits of it and I succeed, or play piano or whatever it might be, in these component parts, I might begin to feel or think I can do it. So you can occasionally attack the behavior or try and make the behavior be the impetus that helps you think better. But the ultimate to it is you have to think right, feel right in order to behave right, and you have to maintain what it is that you want to do. And that's such a brilliant point, Barry, because a lot of people forget. They just want to lose the weight, and then what? They want to make the money, and then what? You have to manage your money. That's why those lottery winners don't stay, rich. For whatever reason. So management is a huge portion of keeping your intention and your habits.
Yes.
Last week we talked about that destination thing. You got to think of your points of where you're going to be, and the destination part is very important.
Absolutely.
Living like the wish is fulfilled, right? Right, Rex?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Steve.
What?
We're doing a show here, Steve.
Did we wake him up?
Yeah, I think we woke him up. I think we.
No, I've been listening, and once again, I'm going to segue from what Rex was saying. Einstein said nothing changes unless something moves. Rizzo says get up off your ass and make it happen. But the thing that keeps people from making resolutions is the word change itself. People are afraid of that word. As soon as you hear change, still comes into play. Fear comes into play immediately. And I think we should, I do when I coach people, I say don't even use the word change. I say use the word shift. Shift your life in another direction. Gradually shift. And as Rex was saying, everything that's not working in your life is because of the way you think about it. Everything that is working in your life is working because of the way you think about it. Your thoughts create your life. I mean, there is no ifs, ands, or buts about that. So if you're going through something that you want to make a difference in your life, first step, you have to shift your way of thinking. And there's a culprit that we all have. Every one of us. I have it. All of you have it. Famous people have it. Wealthy people have it. There's a culprit. It's just that successful people are aware of this culprit, and I call it the big mouth inside your head. Some people call this thing your ego. Some people call it the imposter. Some people call it the enemy. So a lot of people call it the devil, which may be a little melodramatic, but if you listen to it, there will be hell to pay. That big mouth inside your head is that voice that's constantly saying, even though you may be halfway through achieving this particular goal and you hit a snag, that's when the big mouth comes into play, and it's louder than any other part of yourself and says, I knew this was going to happen. Every time I try to do something, it never works. I always go one step up and I go 2 steps back. Why is it that everybody else has what I want? I tried everything. I prayed. I did this. I did that. It looked like I was going to get it. And God damn it, it was taken away from me again. That's the big mouth inside your head. And it rules your life. And it'll keep you from embracing any change that you want to make in your life. And if we can control the big mouth, and the only way you can do that is by becoming aware when it's attacking you. And in that moment of awareness, you enter into a field of other opportunities where you can choose to think differently. I'm trying to say a lot here and trying to compound it into a whole big program here, but I know I don't have enough time. But awareness is the key that sets you free. When you're aware of the train of thoughts that are keeping you from what you want to do, you need to know that you have the power to direct your thoughts in the direction that you want them to go, not in the direction that this big mouth has been telling you to go for your entire life. And the most scariest part about the big mouth inside your head is that most people aren't even aware that this entity within all of us is the thing that's keeping you from your success. It has become a part of who they are. It's commonplace. It's their personality. But when you understand that there is another voice in you, which is your authentic self, your higher part, the God part of you that speaks softly, it's a lot quieter than the big mouth inside your head. But if you could acknowledge that and become aware of that, that voice is 10 times, 100, 1,000 times more powerful than the big mouth inside your head. And that's all of our choices. You have to become aware of what you're doing to yourself. You have to ask, why isn't this working? Instead of blaming and becoming the victim. Once you become aware of this big mouth, knowing that you can control it through a state of awareness, and you can shift your way of thinking and say, well, this kind of thinking was just making a challenging situation worse than what it has to be. What could I do to shift my way of thinking to get to where I want to go and take it from that step on?
Steve, isn't that big mouth that you're talking about? That's constantly being fed by outside influences. It's the TV commercial that says you have to be thinner. It's the people out on the streets that say you have to make more money or drive a car.
That's part of it.
Car. I mean, that's what's feeding the big mouth. So there's constantly energy coming into that. Exactly. So that's a tough thing to defeat, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But the other, that's a big part of it. But those commercials and listening to society is just the fodder that's feeding the big mouth that was already there. The big mouth originates when you were younger, when somebody was telling you you were not smart enough, you're not good enough. How do I know this? I was voted least likely to succeed in my senior class in high school. How do I know this? I was told by a guidance counselor in front of my mom and dad that I wasn't smart enough to go to college. And they believed him, and so did I, because we figured this guy's got to know what he's talking about. Look at his title, guidance counselor. If he doesn't know, who does? Those beliefs were the determining factors for the first 10 years, 15 years of my adult life. Every decision that I tried to make, the big mouth came and said, you're not smart enough to do this. Be safe where you are. What, are you kidding me? You're going to go and become a stand-up comedian? That's insane. You'll never be able to do that. And once I acknowledged that this entity was controlling me, and excuse my language, but finally I said, fuck you. You're not going to do this to me anymore. That was my New York attitude, of course. But it took a while, but I had to turn my life around because I became aware that there was something within me keeping me back from what I deserved.
Awesome. Lynn, what do you think about all this?
Well, I've been taking notes here, and you got to be careful with the trends of the world, and you need to know thyself, because I know that every time I say I'm going on a diet, especially on Monday, because that's when everybody does it, right? You're setting yourself up for failure. If you truly know yourself, you know that you're going to overeat, you're going to do all these things to fail on your first day. So knowing yourself, like when I'm being really careful about my diet, if I'm going to have a hamburger or something, I'll have the one bread, not two. I'll leave the last bite. I'll do those little things because, we forget when we start any trip to a destination, we've got, you gotta leave room for margin for error. So, it's just like if you're going to go on a trip for a couple months, you try to lose a little weight, you try to watch what you're doing so that when you do eat and you're socializing or not exercising or doing something, you gotta, life is one of those things where you have to be prepared for expect the unexpected, but be prepared. And so, as far as you're right, change is scary, but when you tell people change your mind, change your life, then change sounds good, because if you can control what your thoughts are and better, it's just like if you had $100 and you went and spent it real quick, and then you're like, that's the last $100 I had. If I had another $100, I think I'm going to do it a little different. Every day we wake up, we have a chance to do the same thing. Is what would you do every moment of your life? And so, you don't have to eat an elephant. It takes only one bite at a time. So that's why I love Rex's book, because he takes biteful things from every wisdom, and it's in one spot. And yeah, I'm kind of plugging his book, but it's one of those things that it makes you feel. It makes you feel like nobody has to tell you what to do. You going to the gym, like you said, if everybody were to show up on that day, that has memberships, they'd call the fire department because not that many people are allowed. Yeah, exactly. But again, what do we do as cattle? Oh, it's Monday. We got to get that membership. Yep. And I got to save money this year. Well, save yourself some money. Don't get that membership. Watch your behavior. I love Eckhart Tolle too. Just remove yourself from the situation. And by our age, everyone here, we should know our behavior. We should know our yearly behavior of how we feel and think, through the holidays and this and that. And if you know that person, then change what you're doing. Have that heart to heart, and like I said, know thyself and be true to yourself. And just being honest with yourself, it's amazing how your life can change.
Yeah, but Lynn, that's I'm sorry. Go ahead, Scott.
I want to take this around the room again. I really do, but I need to add something in here because, I believe that you guys all started off on the right path, but there was a very similar line, which is about, is this truly your authentic self that wanting to do these things? And do I want to read more books because I like reading, or do I want to read more books so I could tell people I read more books?
I don't think anybody ever does that. Well, there are.
I tell people I read more books. Do I actually fucking read them? No, I don't. But I tell people I do, and it all works out. If they ask me if they quiz me on them, I'm screwed. Here's the problem. We're talking about being authentic. We're talking about knowing yourself. We're talking about something that is probably the hardest thing in the human condition to do, is to be authentic and to know yourself. Mm-hmm. In the populations I work with, these people have no knowledge of. I could ask them what makes you happy. They don't know. They don't know what makes them happy. They don't know who they're supposed to be. They know what everybody else is doing, and they know that looks good, and and I want to live. I want a house that's going to be on MTV's Cribs, and I want this, and I want that. But they have no idea what they want to be and who they are on the inside. So my question to everyone here, because we all had the same kind of line of thought, it's got to be about you and what is true to you. Because if it's true to you, you might get it done. If it's not true to you, you definitely won't. How does somebody reach that point within themselves? What are some things people can do so that they can find their authentic selves? It's easy to say once you've done it, but when you're in the world and you don't even know who you are, what do you do other than follow everybody around and make false promises and resolutions? So how do we do that? And anybody who wants to start that off can start.
I will really quick, and then Steve.
Okay,
and
go ahead, Lynn.
I was just going to say that you need to evaluate not only yourself, but the people around you that reinforce, care, listen, people that actually listen and care about you, people that, if you're around people that don't even remember your birthday or don't, see that they haven't heard on you social media and they don't know if you don't feel good. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing when you start realizing that when you're the one always reaching out and people don't reach out to you, you got to start finding people that actually care. It's got to be a 50-50, it's got to be a mutual thing. So being around people that uplift you, you should need to be around other people that uplift you. You need to have people that they don't call you just to them talk, but you're both talking. So I say start with realizing the people that you love talking to. I love talking every day to Teodora, and I love lifting her up. She loves lifting me up. And then you realize, wow, there's things that I love about Teodora that I'm going to implement or whatever. So when you plant a seed, it needs water. It needs the sun. It needs the right elements to grow. Then to grow, to have a good enough foundation. And the thing is like, I have a person that's, in rehab right now, and I hope he does real well, but, he fell off the wagon really hard. And I pray that he does really well. I mean, he's suffered through losing 2 children himself, in his life. And I mean, the holidays are tough. And so I say all that to say this, all the people he thought that would be there for them, they weren't there. And that hits you down to the bottom. And so if you really care about these people, it makes or breaks them. And when you have depression or this or that. So what I'm saying is, yes, you've got to see if you're okay, but truly, are the people around you really care about you? Or are they there for whatever? I mean, when one person treats a different person a different way, and then you notice you're being treated different, you got to check your surroundings and make sure you're safe with the people that are willing to share and grow with you and help you. I think that's where it starts. So go ahead, Steve.
Again, I'm going to say that it all depends on your thought process. Most people start their days off in low moods at best. And the scary thing is that they're not even aware of what they're doing to themselves and what they're saying to themselves. Before they even take the covers off, they immediately. Now, how do you expect to change your life when you're unable to shift your way of thinking? They wake up in the morning, they think of the grueling day they had the day before, the challenging day, the fires that weren't put out there. I read people that they had to deal with. And I know people, they didn't even take the covers off. They're still groggy. They're waking up and they reach over to their nightstand and they look at their iPhone and they start looking at all of the messages that they think need to be answered before they even leave the house. No one gives themselves a sacred timeout to shift their way of thinking, to start their day in an optimistic mood, because the attitude that you have at the beginning of the day more than likely is going to be the attitude you carry with you throughout the day, and you're not even aware why you're in a bad mood again. And then all of a sudden you're getting ready, you go to work, and then you see that guy that, oh, here's that asshole again. Well, this is going to be one of those days again. And you're actually, that's negative self-talk. Some people call it self-talk. I call it self-curse talk, because you're casting a spell on your life. And you started your day off that way, and you're unaware that you even did it. You have to reevaluate your life and reevaluate the way that you're thinking. The only way that you can do that is by spending a significant amount of time by yourself and acknowledging why am I feeling this way? It's the beginning of the day. What's making me feel this way? Oh, I know. What the hell was I thinking? Of course, my thought process is on the crap I had to deal with the day before. And I know I'm going to see this guy at work again. Why am I allowing him to piss me off day in and day out? This is what is called taking control of your life. And it's a gradual process of shifting the way that you think. And when you start noticing that, wow, my day is becoming a little easier, and you said it earlier, Lynn, you got to start your day knowing you're going to be confronted with challenges. Mm-hmm. But it's not the challenge, it's what you do about it is what makes the difference. And what you do about it is the way you think about it. People are in more control of their lives than they could possibly imagine. But when you tell someone that they have to change, they immediately, and they're not even aware they're doing this, they go into that state of fear. Change means difficulty. There are people that stay in abusive relationships their entire lives because the fear of changing is more powerful than the abuse.
Okay, excellent. Let's see, who's Rex?
I saw Rex move first.
Yes, I thought he was first. He was the first to the buzzer.
He was first trigger.
So I've for 40 years, I've told people if you get up in the morning and you look for smiles, you're bound to find more smiles. And yes, you might find a frown or two, but it's better to look for the smiles, because if you decide you're going to look for frowns, you might find a smile or two, but you're certainly going to fail, frowns. And the point of that is about bookends. So Steve is absolutely right on. How you get up in the morning is crucial to the rest of how you spend the rest of your day. But how you go to bed the night before is crucial for how you get up in the morning. So you need to bookend your day. So if you start with shifting your attitude, your mindset in the morning, also do that before you go to bed. Don't review the worst things and go to sleep. Review the best things. Fall in love with yourself and with your day and with yourself, and then intend to have that happen tomorrow as well. And then tomorrow, get up and follow through. Remember maintenance that Barry was talking about, and follow through that day till you get to the bookend at night where you do it again. The way that you make a new habit is to do it repeatedly, spaced repetition, do it repeatedly, correctly, consistently for a long enough duration of time with the appropriate amount of intensity, meaning if you don't enjoy it, you probably ain't going to do it. So you need to make it enjoyable, bite size or whatever size it is, so that it's significant, but not overwhelmingly difficult, because then you won't do it either. So start your day pleasant, end your day pleasant, and in the day between and from night to morning, it will be pleasant. So you're starting this cycle, which will create momentum, and that will build just like the wheel going down the road. It'll continue to do the cycle as long as you give it the right little push. And that's all you really have to do, is push it in the right direction just a little bit, and then maintain it enough so that it creates that momentum, and it'll carry you. The idea of creating new habits is so you don't have to think about them, that you find yourself doing them automatically and reliably. And that ultimately is the goal. You don't fight the old habit. You just rewrite the new one by doing what it is that you want and continuing to encourage and enforce and nurture and enjoy. And then ultimately that becomes a new way of living. And it's really quite simple. But that's how you live life on your terms.
Yep. And if you see that old habit coming back, you don't fight it. You just say, I'm not going to listen to you anymore. That's the big mouth inside your head. You're going to be here my whole life, but you're going to take a back seat. I'm driving the car. You're not in control now. You could actually do that. You can talk to the big mouth. You don't have to yell at it. You can just say, you're not going to control me. I have a new habit that's going to take over. You might come back every now and then, but I'm moving forward, and you're not going to do anything about it.
Just remember, everything becomes muscle memory. So it's just a matter of getting the muscle memory going so that you are automatically on autopilot is another way of looking at it.
Yep.
Hey, Rich. Oh, now there's Miss Kristy.
I want to jump in and kind of go back to something, Scotty, that you brought up. Like, there are so many people. We're talking about authenticity. We're talking about shifting mindset. There are, and I see this in my practice day in and day out, right? And Steve, I love what you're talking about, the big mouth. But I'm going to tell you, the majority of the population doesn't even know that exists. They don't even know, right? So I want to add to what you guys were saying, but almost introduce, I'm very visual, so I see it visually. I want to introduce a step prior, right? Because you're talking about waking up in the morning and bookends. I call it anchor points. I love all this and I agree with all of it, but I want to bring up this other place in the beginning, right? Where it's like, okay, we need to teach people how to sit down, how to turn off all the stuff, how to get quiet, because, and I call this, you know, building a presence practice, right? Where how do I come into the moment? And sometimes that starts with just bringing people to their 5 senses. Look around the room, notice what you see, hear, taste, touch, smell, right? It's like, be here now. Then go into the body. Okay, what do you feel in your arms? What do you feel in your legs? This might sound ridiculous, but I'm going to tell you, for some people, they don't even have any connection to their body. They don't understand that the thoughts in their minds are not them. They don't get it. So I feel like there's that first step of bringing people into the moment such that they can start to even hear the thoughts that are playing, right? They can hear the narrative. So it's like, before we can shift the narrative, we got to even hear what's playing, right? And just be with it and recognize it for what it is and accept it for what it is. That's when you can, after that, examine, okay, hey, is this language, is this narrative working for me? Is it holding me back? Is this the result of conditioning? Like, that's a few steps down, you know? So I would say one of the first things we have to do is, you know, really empower. And I have to do this for myself every day. Like, you know, I wake up in the morning, I got to go sit in silence. I got to bring my awareness in. I got to be present. And sometimes that means feeling my hands, feeling my feet when I've been so busy and disconnected and distracted. If I don't bring it back to the here and now, I have no idea what's playing on autoplay, right? It's like your CD player on shuffle, or, you know, your iPod or whatever on shuffle, right? It's just playing and playing and playing. You got to be present enough to hear that, you know, and to see where that's controlling you, so that eventually you can take control of it.
Yep. Love that. Love
Scott
that,
Schilling always says, start and feel where your feet are, you know? He has said that many times.
Yeah, be where your feet are. I always tell people, where are your feet planted? Be there.
Unless you're doing a fire walk.
I did that.
I did that too.
You stop and felt your feet?
I walked all the way across, and then they have a bucket of water, and you're supposed to put your feet in the water to make sure you get the coals off, because they might stick. And I put my right foot in the water, then I put my right foot in the water. I never put my left foot in the water. And as I walked away, a little piece of coal burned a hole in my foot. So I got a scar. I wrote to Tony Robbins. He hasn't paid for the medical bills yet. He hasn't answered my calls. So, Kristy, thank you for addressing that. It's tough to know who you are until you know where you are. And until you stop and sit with yourself, you'll never know that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Barry.
So I want to come from a different angle, because my focus being around relationships. That thing about being like, to their own self be true, for many people is intermixed with that, or interwoven with that. And most people who are in a relationship are unaware of their own part in that relationship. They're always looking at externally the other person. And so oftentimes their life is based upon how they're loved or hated by the person across from them. Many divorces happen that way, because people fall out of love. The reality is, for most people, is they don't have a relationship with themselves at all, because they're always doing the one externally. A lot of the work I do, I mean, I've got, you know, stuff on website and things about self-love, self-support. But the truth is, most of us don't even know how we really function, because we're so busy dealing with life around us. We're basically externally referenced. So what was said by Rex and by Kristy and by Steve about being still, about taking time to be with yourself is key. I'm going to differ from Steve about the big voice, because having done this work over the years, many, many years, of just the number of voices I have, I have a committee. But the thing is, I've learned how to become the biggest voice around the table, not loudness, but the most present voice.
Yeah.
So the other voices basically work with it. And the thing about that big voice concept that Steve's talking about is that all of us, generally speaking, I want to say everybody, because there's always exceptions, are basically imprinted when we're very young by the voices of the adults around us. So it is a big voice. It's the bigger person voice that we take on, thinking that it's the best voice to listen to, because we don't know enough yet when we're 2 or 3 years old. And so for most of us, we're still running tapes that have, and I'm using the word tapes intentionally, that are worn out from those upbringings that are not true for us anymore. Because again, what you like Steve was saying about the guidance officer, parents, cousins, siblings, everybody tells us stuff, and 9 times out of 10 we believe it without checking if it's true or not.
Exactly.
So part of the work is we need to discover our own truth. What's real for us, what's important to us, and then when somebody says something, does it fit or does it not? Because if you do that part alone, you start to change the way your life looks and the way you look at your life. You start with who you are. But in relationship, back to that piece for a moment, if everybody, a big wish, if everybody had a relationship with themselves first that was loving, kind, compassionate, caring, unconditional, every other relationship would be so much easier. But most people don't do that. That's why my work is so busy.
That is why some scripture says love God first and then love your neighbor as yourself. If you don't love yourself, there's no loving your neighbor. So it makes perfect sense. Right. Have you noticed, and I ask this to the audience, but we can mention the panel, that people are really, really, really sure, they're certain, they know absolutely what's wrong and what they can't do and how come things don't work out and why? But when it comes to their plans and their dreams and their goals and their intentions, they doubt it, they worry, they fear, they're not so sure what's going to happen.
Absolutely.
So but think about that for a second. These voices in our head, or as Steve calls self-curse talk or whatever, but these voices, the ones that get you to go, I can't do that. Why don't you doubt that?
Right.
And agree with the one that says, you can do this. I mean,
Right.
In other words, it is a switch. The only reason we don't is because we've been conditioned, we've been anchored, we've been locked in, we've been practiced, we've made a habit of paying attention to the wrong voice and having the wrong feelings accompany that. And it can be otherwise. And this is what people don't understand because they're too busy not noticing what it is that they're doing. They're not aware of the other person or themselves or the voices or whatever. You can change this. I mean, this is the point. You have control of that. It's just you got to learn to have some good taste, and trust yourself. And that's why I say dog shit or diamonds. You choose. So doubt the ones that criticize you. I mean, it's always good to get feedback. So don't be a narcissist.
Choose carefully, yeah.
Yeah, but the point is doubt. If you say I can run out into traffic blindfolded, I would doubt that one. I mean, you gotta have the wisdom to not do stupid things. But the point is, if it's something good for you, positive for you, beneficial for you and other people, then put your faith in that and doubt the ones that say you can't do it, it's not going to work out, and everything else. I mean, doubt isn't a bad thing if you're doubting the negative, the correct thing. Yeah, if you're doubting the correct thing, it's not a bad thing to do.
Right.
If somebody said, here, you see that tightrope? Just go run across it to the other side of Niagara Falls.
Which has been done.
Right, but would you doubt that the person has your best intentions? And would you go, oh, get out of here? You can't do that. That's crazy. Why would I do that? You know what I'm saying? I mean, you're used to doubting. You just need to put it in the right spots.
And you said that so eloquently because that's why shows like this are great. Because there are people listening, and all of a sudden we just gave them what I call common sense success strategies to turn your life around. If you're listening to this voice that's ruining your life, why not just say to it, no, you can't do this anymore. Gradually shift you're right, Rex, and gradually shift your way of thinking to the way you want your life to go.
Yeah, maybe you're wrong. Maybe that's not true. Why not?
Exactly. Stay in that. Stay in that big mouth. You could be wrong.
Let's get Teodora in the middle here, Lynn, and let's hear what she has to say on this before we're done. I can and I will. There we go.
Yes,
Teodora?
Yeah, I feel like this was exactly what I needed, you guys. This was such a therapy call for me because I will be honest and admit I have not been the most kind person to myself today. And I was upset with myself and I was just not happy. So this call was what I needed because 2022 for me was a year of growth, massive growth from all points of view, mentally, spiritually, financially, as a mother, as a friend, it was massive growth. And so I made out of that, thinking about going into 2023 and changes that I need to make I realized that there are some things that have to continue, but at the same time, there are some things that have to change. And so, analyzing that, I went into the shock and I allowed the voices in my head to be like, well, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't do that. So this call literally was a therapy call for me, exactly what I needed to hear, so that I can get back to the standards that I made for myself and for my life. And I mean, those maybe the goals, but instead of calling them the goals, I call them my standards, so that I can make the changes that I need, so that my life will go to the next level, because I can and I will.
Yay.
Oh, thank you, Teodora. Thanks for being honest about that stuff. That's great. That's great. I think we all have those times when we fall into that. And I think we could all agree, as far as like resolutions and change and everything else, it's very difficult for somebody who thinks of himself as a failure to find success. We've got to be able to look at the successes we have every day. One phone call goes wrong at work, and all of a sudden everything I did that day was wrong. And it's not possible that if I drove to work and didn't get killed by a freaking bus, I did that right. I did a lot of things right. So not to focus. I love what Rex and Steve and everybody else were kind of saying about how we focus on all the negative and we bring that to the forefront. We argue for our limitations more than we argue for our possibilities. And it's amazing. Then we wonder why we have so many limitations, because we put them there. We argue for them constantly. We all have something. We all have had success in our lives in one way or another. In one way or another, there's been something successful. Focus on that before you take your next step. Because if I take my next step with my head hung low, feeling like a failure, I got a pretty good idea how it's going to turn out. And the resolutions, I think we think it's like that it's the mulligan, it's the do-over. It's, well, on the first, then everything I screwed up is going to get fixed and everything's going to be great. And I'm going to be different. And I'm going to go to the gym once and I'm going to come out looking like Schwarzenegger. And this is all going to happen. And I'm going to read 100 books all at once because that's what I got to do. And it's just so much. It's too much. It's too much. Maybe it's just got to be about moving forward one step at a time, one day at a time. And knowing what I want in my life, not what my parents want for me or what my spouse of the day, or whoever I'm married to at the moment, wants for me. None of those things. It's about what I want in my life, and knowing that listen, I've lived this long. I've beaten an abusive childhood. I've beaten addiction. I've beaten alcoholism. I've beaten mental health. I've beaten all these things. How can I sit here and think of myself as a failure? But sometimes I still do. So I got to stop listening to that voice. I got to spend more time with people like you, like Lynn, who I've got to apologize because I missed your birthday.
Let's not talk about that.
No, I missed your birthday because I've been off social media for the past week because I was taking a hiatus from all of the noise and I did not notice. And without social media, nobody knows what's going on. But without Lynn, Lynn, for the first time, I attended a clubhouse room. And you set me up almost a year ago, and I finally did it. So I thank you for all the things that you do to bring this kind of group together too. But
Scott,
all of us, go ahead.
One quick thing. I want to say this just a teaching for everybody to take with them. Very short, very simple. Do you know what the definition of a successful walker is? The definition of a successful walker is the person who got up one more time than they fell down. All of us have done that. So think of that as one in the win column. So keep walking and keep learning that you can change and pick yourself up one more time and you fell down. That's the definition of success. Not to get the goal, is to overcome the failure.
Yeah.
There you go.
And find your triggers and don't let them be your downfall. Set yourself up to succeed every day. And there's always something good out of everything, no matter what it is. So this is a good show, and I do miss, and we are going to try to go to another platform where we got more of our people, but I do miss our Bob Donnell, which will be back, and our Debbie after the beginning of the year, she'll be back. And then I want to just show this, our farm girl edible. No, not that kind of edible. She wasn't here. So they weren't here, but they weren't forgotten. So
which kind of edibles? Well,
That'll be brittle.
there's pot, or there's panties, or there's plants. I mean, what
Yeah, exactly. She's this kind of edibles right here.
Okay.
Jellies and peanut brittle, and you're making me laugh, and I'm gonna turn really red, and I gotta get out of here.
I'm not saying anything.
Because yeah. And if you knew what I did for 15 years, you'll know why she said no, not that kind of edibles.
Oh, now you tell me.
We gotta go.
Eyebrows up.
Yeah.
Thank you
guys.
all.
Thank you
Love
so
you
much.
all.
So much. Thank you so much for being here.
Everybody do one thing nice for someone else, 2 things nice for yourself today, and you'll have a good day. All right.
Don't tell me what you do.
Hold on, you guys.
Keeping me